The Young and the Restless spoilers. Under the quiet night sky of Genoa City, where the soft hum of luxury and deceit always danced together, the fragile illusion of happiness that Noah and Sienna had built began to shatter. On the surface, their love appeared passionate, forbidden, and intoxicating, two souls clinging to each other under the pretense of destiny. But beneath that glossy perfection lay something darker, a love born not from purity but from destruction. They had convinced themselves that what they shared was inevitable, that the world had simply misunderstood them. Yet as they tried to protect their own happiness, they crushed the hearts of those who once believed in them, leaving behind the bitter taste of betrayal and the quiet rage of broken promises. Noah had not always been this man, reckless, driven by lust and guilt, losing all sense of moral compass. There was a time when his heart beat for Allie, when every dream he had involved her laughter echoing through their home, when he believed that family, honesty, and love could coexist. He gave up everything for that vision, his pride, his stability, and even the Newman legacy that had defined him. Together, they had faced struggles, built dreams, and weathered storms. But then Sienna came, a mystery cloaked in charm, a woman who made Noah feel alive in ways he had forgotten were possible. Her arrival was like a match thrown into a room full of secrets. Everything caught fire before anyone realized the danger. To Noah, she represented escape, an intoxicating thrill from the predictability of love that had grown familiar. To Sienna, he was a means of belonging, a chance to rewrite her narrative and finally step out of the shadows of her past. What neither of them saw was the destruction they left behind, the silent devastation brewing in Allie's heart, the kind of pain that doesn't scream but slowly poisons the soul. Allie had loved Noah with the pure kind of devotion that demanded nothing but faith. Even when he grew distant, she believed it was temporary, that love, real love, didn't just vanish. But when the whispers began, when the phone calls went unanswered, when his eyes stopped meeting hers, something inside her began to fracture. The woman who once nurtured hope began to wither into someone she didn't recognize. She had sacrificed too much, stood by him through humiliation and heartbreak, and now the man she once called her world was slipping away into someone else's arms. The night she found out the truth, it wasn't through words, it was through sight, the cruelest form of confirmation. She had followed him, not out of obsession but desperation, clutching the last remnants of what she thought they shared. When she opened the door to that hotel room, the air itself seemed to collapse around her. There they were, Noah and Sienna, locked in a moment so intimate that it stripped Allie of breath, dignity, and sanity all at once. It wasn't just betrayal she saw, it was annihilation. Her world disintegrated, her identity ripped apart, leaving only the raw, animal instinct of pain. In that frozen instant, everything Allie had once believed in, love, loyalty, forgiveness, became meaningless. The tears didn't come, instead, there was a chilling stillness, a clarity that terrified her. She saw Sienna smile faintly, a silent acknowledgement of victory, and that was when something inside Allie broke beyond repair. She didn't plan what happened next. It wasn't reason or revenge that guided her, only heartbreak. The gun she carried wasn't meant for death, it was meant for protection, for peace of mind in a world that had already taken too much from her. But as the rage, humiliation, and grief collided within her, her hands trembled with a force stronger than fear. The sound of the shot pierced through the room like a scream that could never be taken back. Sienna fell, the color draining from her face as she collapsed into Noah's arms. For a moment, time stood still. Noah's voice cracked with disbelief, his hands pressing against the wound, begging for a miracle that would not come. Blood pooled on the floor, mixing with the remnants of their passion, a haunting symbol of how love could so easily turn to ruin. Allie stood there, unable to move, staring at what she had done. There was no satisfaction, no release, only emptiness. The silence that followed was suffocating. Noah looked up at her, his expression a mixture of horror and guilt, as if he finally realized the cost of his choices. The woman he had betrayed now became the ghost who would haunt him forever, and the woman he had desired lay lifeless because of his own deception. The room became a crime scene of emotions, love, rage, grief, regret, all twisted into one. Outside, the city lights of Genoa City glowed indifferently, as if mocking the tragedy unfolding behind closed doors. The world moved on, unaware that in one reckless moment, 3 lives had been destroyed. Noah's tears fell onto Sienna's face, but no amount of sorrow could undo what had been set in motion. The truth was cruel and undeniable. Every decision he made had led to this. He had chosen passion over loyalty, temptation over truth, and in doing so, condemned them all. As the police sirens wailed in the distance, Allie's body finally began to shake. The weapon slipped from her hands as she sank to the floor, whispering words no one could hear. She had not wanted to kill anyone, she had only wanted to stop the pain. But pain, like love, has its own way of surviving. Even as Sienna's heartbeat faded, the echoes of what had happened would live on in every shadow of Noah's conscience. He would see Allie's eyes in every reflection, hear Sienna's last breath in every silence. There would be no redemption, no easy forgiveness. What had begun as forbidden passion ended as a haunting curse. In Genoa City, where every secret eventually comes to light, this one would burn brighter than most. Because sometimes, love doesn't die quietly, it explodes, leaving behind ashes that never stop smoldering. Noah would carry that fire forever, a reminder that happiness built on another's pain always demands its price. And for Allie, once a woman of warmth and grace, she would become a ghost trapped in her own grief, forever replaying that moment, forever wondering whether love had ever been real, or just a beautiful lie that turned into tragedy. In the quiet corners of Genoa City, where heartbreak hides behind the elegance of city lights, Allie's story had always been one of devotion, a woman who believed love could heal everything, even betrayal. She had given Noah her youth, her trust, her every ounce of tenderness, believing that together they could build something unbreakable. Their love was not born of convenience or ambition, it was raw, honest, and fragile, something she protected with the same care one would give to a fragile flame in the wind. But as time went on, the warmth of that love turned cold, replaced by distance and shadows. Noah, once tender and adoring, began to look at her differently. His voice grew sharper, his eyes colder, and his heart, once hers entirely, seemed to drift toward a world Allie could no longer reach. At first, she told herself it was stress, that life had simply gotten in the way of their happiness. But when she found the traces of another woman, Sienna, woven into his life like a cruel whisper, the truth became unbearable. Allie's love turned into desperation. She begged, she reasoned, she tried to remind him of the family they had planned, the child she carried beneath her heart, the life they once dreamed of. But Noah had already crossed the invisible line between love and contempt. His words, once gentle, became weapons. He told her she was suffocating him, that she was nothing but a reminder of choices he wished he hadn't made. The moment he told her to leave, his voice dripping with bitterness, she felt the world tilt beneath her. He said things no woman should ever hear from the man she loves, cruel, cutting words meant to sever her heart completely. And yet, she couldn't walk away. She believed if she left, everything would be lost, not just her love, but the future growing inside her. Allie's pregnancy should have been a symbol of hope, but instead it became her curse. She thought that if Noah knew, he would come to his senses, that he would remember the tenderness they once shared. But instead, when she told him, he recoiled as if the news was a burden, not a blessing. He accused her of using the baby to trap him, of trying to control him the way he claimed she always did. That moment shattered something deep within her. It was not just betrayal, it was annihilation. The man she loved had become a stranger, and worse, he had become cruel enough to deny the existence of their own child. Alone, abandoned, and drowning in heartbreak, Allie's grief turned to anger. She couldn't understand how love could transform into this much pain. Night after night, she replayed everything in her mind, the laughter, the promises, the way Noah used to hold her hand as if nothing could ever separate them. Now, those memories only fueled her rage. She told herself she wasn't angry at him, she was angry at her. Sienna. The woman who had appeared out of nowhere and taken everything from her. In Allie's eyes, Sienna became the embodiment of everything that went wrong, the serpent that slithered into her paradise and poisoned it from within. It was easier to hate her than to face the truth that Noah had chosen to betray her on his own. Her thoughts grew darker as the nights grew longer. The loneliness, the humiliation, the feeling of being unwanted, it all twisted into something she could no longer control. She began following them, watching from a distance as Noah and Sienna lived the life she believed was hers. The sight of Sienna smiling, touching Noah's arm, laughing softly, was enough to make Allie's stomach turn. The bitterness ate away at her sanity, whispering that if Sienna were gone, everything would go back to the way it was. That one act, one moment of courage, or madness, could fix everything. When she finally decided to confront Sienna, it wasn't planned, it was instinctual. Her hands shook, her heart raced, her mind spinning between love and hate. She told herself it wasn't murder, it was justice. Sienna had stolen her happiness, corrupted Noah, destroyed her future. What else was there left to lose? The gun felt heavy in her hands, not because of fear, but because of the weight of what she was about to do. She believed she could scare Sienna away, make her disappear, force Noah to see reason. But obsession is a cruel companion. It convinces the broken that pain is the only way to find peace. The confrontation was fast and chaotic. Allie's voice trembled as she faced Sienna, her words pouring out like shattered glass. Sienna tried to reason with her, but Allie wasn't listening. Her world had narrowed into a tunnel of fury and grief. She saw Sienna not as a woman but as the embodiment of betrayal. And then it happened, the deafening sound of the gunshot, the smell of smoke, the sight of blood blooming across Sienna's chest like a red flower in winter. Allie froze, staring at what she had done, unable to comprehend the enormity of it. She hadn't meant to kill her, or maybe she had, deep down. Maybe some part of her believed that destroying the woman who ruined her life would make the pain stop. But as Sienna fell, the illusion shattered. Noah's scream tore through the silence, raw and primal, as he ran toward the woman now bleeding in his arms. He looked at Allie not with pity, not even with anger, but with something far worse, horror. In that moment, Allie saw what she had truly become. Not a lover, not a victim, but a monster forged by heartbreak. The gun slipped from her hand as the reality of her choices sank in. She had lost everything, not just Noah, not just her unborn child's future, but herself. The woman who once dreamed of love and family was gone, replaced by a ghost haunted by guilt and grief. As the sirens wailed in the distance, Allie stood motionless, tears tracing silent paths down her face. She whispered Noah's name, but he didn't look at her. His world had collapsed into the lifeless body he held, and hers had collapsed into the space between them, an unbridgeable chasm of regret. What had started as love ended in tragedy, not because she stopped loving him, but because she loved him too much. Her devotion, once her greatest strength, had become her undoing. In the aftermath, Genoa City would whisper about the scandal, about the woman who lost everything for love. But no one would ever truly understand the storm inside her, the endless nights, the pleading heart, the desperate belief that love could save her when it was the very thing that destroyed her. Allie's story was not one of evil, but of heartbreak twisted too far, of love that became obsession, of hope that turned to madness. And as she was led away in handcuffs, her eyes empty yet still glimmering with sorrow, one thing was certain. There were no winners in this tragedy. Only ghosts, broken hearts, and a lesson that came far too late. When love becomes possession, it ceases to be love at all.